Well, no brotherly love loss here as the Cubs drop the finale to the Phillies in Philadelphia. That more coming up on the Setup Man podcast right now. Couldn't find the right button.
Really is what I thought you were going after.
No, I was just incompetent and almost clicked the this or that imaging. So no worries. Welcome into the Setup Man podcast. I am Alex, and making another return to his property, his baby, Kyle Stanley.
It's mine. It's mine, Alex.
I don't know what to call it. I am out of
It's
sorts.
our channel. It's our channel.
To the chat, yeah, let's put it that way. Oh, rough start for me, but not as rough as Ben Brown's start. We're going to get into that in a second.
That's called deflection, people.
Yep, and that's called a transition. But before we get into all that, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us out there. Now that Kyle is back from paternity leave, look out for those breakdowns. He did a wonderful one about the ejection in Detroit last weekend. Let's make sure you hit that bell so you get all the notifications for that. If you're listening on audio only, first of all, you're missing out on YouTube. But also, if you are audio only, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And then, as I said with Ty the other day, if you unsubscribe, then resubscribe. It's a little secret. Apple doesn't know. It boosts our numbers. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, I've delayed enough. It's time. Cubs drop the finale today, 7-2. They end their road trip with a 4-5 record. And along the way, if this makes you feel any better, they faced pitchers the likes of Mackenzie Gore, Tariq Skubal, Jack Flaherty, Zach Wheeler, and Jesus Luzardo. All could be all-stars. All could be Cy Young candidates. And they faced them within the last 7 days. So, I mean, 4-5. Kyle, I'm going to start here. Are you disappointed with the road trip? Or are you like, you know what, 4-5, fine?
Well, the key thing there is they didn't just face those guys. They lost to all 5 of them. Not necessarily giving those 5 guys a win in the win column, but all of those 5 games ended up in a loss. Do I think they should have won 1 or 2 of those or could have won 1 or 2 of those? Yeah, I do. But, you know, it's not like they went up against, what was his name, Abel yesterday and got blanked, right?
Yeah.
They did the job. They continue to do the job against the guys you expect them to do the job against. And I said when this road trip started, I would be happy with a 5-4 road trip. I can't say I'm happy with a losing road trip, but I'm kind of like, well, that was a difficult one. Outside of the Nats, and you do expect to have a really tough go of it against Mackenzie Gore, who's striking out everyone on this earth this year. Outside of that one game against the Nats, you wanted them to take care of business there, and you just wanted a split in the, win one series and lose one series against Philly and Detroit. So, we basically if you take that Wheeler game that went into extra innings and you just switch that score around, Cubs win 4-3, then we're sitting here happy. And that's a very small margin between the difference of unhappy and happy. So I'm choosing just kind of indifferent right now. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah, I kind of am sitting there too. I know when I did the show with Ty on Sunday night, I said, hey, just win 1 in Philly. Let's just get what we can. And then they only won 1 in Philly. And I'm sitting here like,
wonder if I would have asked for 2.
Yeah, especially after Monday. So that's 2 games against absolute aces. Friday against Skubal. You're in the game. And
it was fun. That was a fun game to watch.
Yeah. And then even Monday, you're in the game. Again, I'm not real sure how. Well, I do know how, and we're going to get to that in a second. Kyle's going to talk about the offense. But we're in the game. And then now truth be told, was at a slow pitch softball game. So I didn't see it, but I came home and the infield's in. They got 5 infielders. Palencia is starting to not melt down, but he doesn't quite have it in the second inning. I'm starting to be a little concerned about 1-run games. I tried to Google what the records in 1-run games are, and to surprise nobody, they haven't had a lot of 1-run games because the offense has been so good.
Yeah.
So I am a little worried about that.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm worried there. I mean, the Palencia one, that extra innings loss, the bigger issue to me was that against Romano, they couldn't score the Manfred man. Like that was the bigger issue. And then you had Palencia come in and shut the door in the bottom of the 10th. And I was just I kind of sat there at that point and was like, man, who else do they have left in this bullpen that can come in and close this game out? And with confidence, with a man on second, if we only score one run, top of the 11th, right? You get one run across, and then you get a chance to get a second run across. You don't do it. And at that point, it was like, can you really blank a really good offense like the Phillies back-to-back innings with a Manfred man on second? And I thought at best it would go to the 12th inning, tied 3-3. But of course, Daniel Palencia, you saw 101, 102 in the first inning, and then you saw 97, 98, 99 in the second inning. So maybe there's something with Daniel that maybe he didn't know he was going back out for a second inning. Maybe he wasn't expecting that. Maybe his body was already kind of like shutting down, like, hey, I'm good. And then he got the call, or maybe he just isn't that solid in multi-inning appearances. I remember he did that a few times last year. But either way, I don't think that you look at Daniel Palencia on that one and say, oh, it's his fault or it's the bullpen's fault from Friday. To me, you had 2 solo home runs and you scored a run on the Manfred men with a double by Pete Crow Armstrong. You just got to be better than that. And I know it's against Zach Wheeler, but you know what? Zach Wheeler, when you look at some of the hard hits, Cubs had a lot of bad luck that game too. Yeah. And so for that reason, that was one of those games that was kind of frustrating because you're like, oh, you can see that Zach Wheeler is human and we can get to him. But then when you have the poor bullpen arms coming out of the Phillies bullpen and you still don't take advantage, that to me was the biggest letdown of that Friday game. And if you took care of business there, then you win the series and we go home 5-4 on the road trip and then we're all happy.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the Palencia thing because you and I were debating this a little bit offline on Monday when it was happening. I had asked, why is Palencia still in the game? And you said it was the right call. Even a couple days later that I've sat on it, are we sure that was the right call? I mean, you kind of alluded to it. Maybe he's just not a multi-inning guy. A lot of these specialists that throw 100 plus typically are one run or one inning guys. Yeah. So even a couple days later, I just don't like how that game was managed, truthfully. Well, once Counsell got thrown out, I know it's a little different, but I didn't love how that game managed. And then jokingly, they brought the 5th infielder in, and I sent you and Ty a message like, why do we do the 5 infielder?
It's stupid. I've never seen it work.
Never. No. It must have worked. And I jokingly said this to you guys. It must have worked in like 1804 or something.
When there wasn't any baseball.
Yeah, with like William Two Shoes Jackson. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And granted, it didn't matter because Marsh almost put it out of the park anyway on the next pitch. But yeah, I don't love how that game was managed. And again, the umpires were bad, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that again.
Well, if you want to break that down for a second, let's look at that. So Matthew Boyd went 6 innings, 1 earned run, but really 2 runs overall. The second run was because of his poor pickoff throw, which that's surprisingly seems to be an issue for him. That's like 3 errant throws on that crazy pickoff move, balky move that he has. Then Ryan Presley comes in and just nails it down, throwing 95, looking dirty. Scoreless inning. Brad Keller, despite giving up 3 hits in an inning and a third, scoreless. Drew Pomeranz comes in, doesn't know how to give up a run, and continues that. 2/3 of inning, no one reached base. And then Palencia came in, and I think it was like 8 pitches in that first inning.
Yeah.
So then really all you have left is Genesis Cabrera, which I think is actually pronounced Genesis Cabrera, Chris Flexen, and Caleb Thielbar. So, I mean, do any of those guys make you feel like that's a closer in that situation? I personally don't. I mean, I know that Caleb Thielbar did the job the other day, or not the other day, a couple months ago in San Diego. But who was coming up? So it was in that situation. Marsh ended up having the walk-off. Wilson, I don't even know who that. Okay, Kemp is a righty. Sosa's a righty. Realmuto's a righty. So do you want a lefty coming in against 3 righties right away? And then Marsh? I don't think that that's the answer either. So I do think with 8 or 9 pitches, Palencia was the right guy. He has proven that he can close out a game, and it just didn't work. And honestly, I just think it didn't work mainly because of the fact that he had 2 bunt hits against him. Like, how do you really truly get mad at a guy if he's getting little weak bunt hits against him in a game where the Cubs haven't really looked all that great anyway, if we're being completely honest? That was a game I didn't even think they deserved to win. I know a lot of people get up in arms. What do you mean they didn't deserve to win? Well, they didn't look good. Okay. That's what that means.
And they were out hit, what, 16-5 or something insane?
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's see what the actual number was on that. The out hit. Yeah, exactly. 16-5. They had an error. They gave up an unearned run. That's the definition of not looking good, guys. So to me, I don't even think twice about it. I think Daniel Palencia was the right call.
Yeah, maybe you can make an argument for Flexen just because he's been so good, but you're right. The bunts, I'm glad you mentioned those because, yeah, I mean, back-to-back bunt singles. It's just, that game was just so frustrating for a number of reasons. But I want to move on from Monday's game. Otherwise, I might have an aneurysm. So let's talk about the game today because you brought up a point in our Setup Man Network group chat that I thought was interesting. You said, hey, why didn't the Cubs use an opener for Ben Brown? Which is an interesting point. His last 2 appearances, so the first appearance I'm going to talk about is Cincinnati. So he did have an opener for that game. Went 6 innings, no earned runs, 9 Ks. Best start, maybe, or not best start. Best appearance maybe ever in the big leagues. Then
I wouldn't go that far because that Milwaukee 7-inning no-hitter, that was phenomenal.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so put this 1B because he was phenomenal in that game.
Yeah, he was really good.
Fair point. I shouldn't forget the Milwaukee game. But then he goes Friday toe-to-toe with Skubal, 7 innings, only 2 earned, 7 Ks, 1 walk. He was really good in that game. So then today, not so good because that's the Ben Brown roller coaster we've been on since the beginning of the year. Today, 5 2/3, 6 earned, 8 hits, 5 Ks, 100 pitches, only 64 strikes. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to flash Ben Brown's heat map. This is only fastball, so if you don't know what a heat map is, basically it just shows you where the location of these pitches were. Just take a look at Ben Brown. I mean, for those watching on YouTube, the red means he's throwing fastballs right down the middle. It's a miracle he only gave up 6 runs. He had 0 command today.
Yeah. Well, and you hear JD talk about all the time, when Ben Brown gets on top of that fastball, it's darting down at the bottom of the zone. And that is either all blue or a little bit white on the low and inside to the lefty there. It's not what you want to see. It's definitely not what you want to see.
No. So bring it back to my original question. So I actually agree with you that they probably should have gone with an opener just because, let's face it, Detroit, really good. Their lineup isn't scary. Kerry Carpenter doesn't put the fear of God in you like Trey Turner or Kyle Schwarber. And both lefties, by the way. Or, I'm sorry, Schwarber's a lefty. But the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah. And they didn't use an opener last night for Colin Ray, which they had done, and it worked out. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. I don't know why they wouldn't.
The more I hear about Ben Brown, 2 things come to mind. One, he's an incredibly mature thinker. Like, he's very deep into his thoughts of what I got to do to get past some mental blocks. And you hear Taylor McGregor talk about it. You especially hear Taylor McGregor talk about it. I think that she has a pretty good relationship with Ben Brown. When I had her on the show last year, she talked about how, like, Ben Brown just had to focus on controlling the controllables, and just whatever is out of his control, he needed to let go. And I just thought that was a very mature mindset for a guy who at the time was, I think, 23. But you also start to hear about these things of him getting too amped up. And he admits that he likes to get amped up for that first inning. Well, you look at the numbers, a 10+ ERA in the first inning, maybe being amped up isn't the goal there. And so, he has that great quote unquote relief appearance against the Reds with the opener. Boom. Didn't have the chance to get quote unquote amped up in that. I like that new like and subscribe. That's great.
You're watching on YouTube. Just a reminder, like and subscribe.
There you go. I mean, you're gonna have to show me how you did that. The other part of it is, then in the next one, he was able to have a great first inning. I think he went 1, 2, 3 in the first inning against the Tigers, and carried that through. In my mind, I was like, great, that one outing fixed him, but he got shellacked the last time against the Phillies. And when you hear about these things with a young guy with a goal of getting a mature mindset, but also he's just, he's under 25 years old. That frontal lobe is just not developed yet. He's going to act a lot more on emotion. I just think that you would want to go to an opener there at that point, because you want to try to just put a 0 up before he even enters the game and make him feel like, okay, now I don't have to deal with Turner. I don't have to deal with Schwarber. I don't have to deal with the top of the lineup. I can go into start with the 4th batter or the 5th, 6th, 7th batters, and I can have a comfortable landing into a game where I didn't feel very comfortable last time. And I would want to see that consistently. Personally, just because it worked with the Reds, I would want to see that consistently with Ben Brown 3, 4, 5 starts in a row before they actually commit to, yes, you are a starter again. But I don't have all the information in the background. I don't know what, Hotovy and Zombro and all these guys are talking to Ben Brown about. I don't know what they've been working on, but that, from an outsider's perspective, that feels good.
Yeah, maybe it's just a thing with the Phillies. Sometimes teams have your number. Maybe it's just as simple as that. And I know that's
Could be, yeah.
Maybe that's just a meatball-y thing to say, but
I would say that if his stuff was on today. His stuff wasn't on.
No, we looked at the heat map, and I was working, so I only got to saw bits and pieces. But every time there was one at bat, I believe he had Castellanos 0-2, like really quickly. I was like, oh, okay, here we go, and got him 3-2, and I think he ended up striking him out on. Sorted Castellanos check swing. Yep, he went.
Yep.
But it's just the quality of pitches today. As the heat map showed, they weren't there. He wasn't super competitive. He wasn't efficient at all. Only threw 64 strikes on 100 pitches. I don't know what to make of him, and I know they have to rely on him pretty heavily until they make a trade or whatever happens in the next 5 weeks or so. Where are you at with Ben Brown? Because I can't figure out if I'm like, oh, it's Ben Brown Day, let's go, or if I'm like, oh God, it's Ben Brown Day.
Well, I'll tell you why I feel really still very good about him, and I want to just take this game and throw it out, is because, and I got a lot of crap from this before the season started, but I was asking, is something wrong with Ben Brown? Because his average fastball was around 95 to 96. Today, he topped out at 98.8. And for the second game in a row, his average fastball was 96.8. Very familiar to what we saw of him last year. Now, remember, last year, Ben Brown was solid in the very short time span that he was healthy, but he still had a couple games like this one today, i.e. the 6 runs against the Rangers in his debut, i.e. the Red Sox game that the Cubs lost. I want to say it was like 14-5 or something like that. He got hit around on that one. Every single Major League Baseball player is allowed to have a bad game. The command was not there today. He wasn't getting on top of the ball, but the velocity was still there, and that's been back-to-back games now where the velocity has actually been ticked up a whole mile per hour. And for that alone, I'm encouraged by Ben Brown. And I may sound like I'm trying to keep it too positive, but I mean, let's look at it this way. 2 out of the last 3 outings he's had have been really good. So if he has a way to be able to figure out how to get the control under wraps, it's going to be now, okay, hey, it's 4 out of 5 that he's been really good. And then suddenly it's going to be, hey, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8. Now suddenly we're going 10 starts in a row where it's like, this guy is nails. And I think that he has that potential. And so I want to be a little bit more patient with him, but just go with an opener in the meantime. That's all I ask.
I'm with you. And even today, like, I woke up, I felt good. I'm like, Luzardo's been struggling. I think we can do it. And it just didn't happen, which brings us to the next point that you actually had a stat on. But offensive concerns, this series and the Detroit series, the home run ball was really highlighted. That was how they got the majority of their runs, especially in this Phillies series. And Kyle, you had a stat to kind of back up what's been going on with this Cubs offense.
Yeah, well, first of all, home runs are never a bad thing. I just want to
True.
preface that. And
Yes.
this is a fun team now with 5 guys with 10 plus home runs, and Carson Kelly's 1 away from making it 6. Like, I can't think of a more well-balanced offense. I still think Matt Shaw is probably going to end up being around 12 to 15 home runs this year. I think this might be a year where Nico never hits a home run. It might be that bad. But my point before I share all this is that home runs are never a bad thing until you start to see this kind of trend. So in the 5 home run game against the Tigers, they won 6-1. 5 home runs, 6 runs. So all 6 runs were on the home run ball. Next day, no runs. So obviously no home runs. Against the Phillies on Monday, that 4-3 loss, 2 solo home runs, and then the third run that they scored was on the Manfred man. So it really, truly doesn't count in my mind. So we could say that all their runs basically came on home runs in that one. Then they hit 5 home runs on Tuesday in their 8-4 win. 5 of the 8, they hit 4 home runs. 5 of the 8 runs were on home runs. And then today, no home runs, but only 2 runs. So if you total all that up, 14 of their last 20 runs, and if you take away the Manfred man, 13 of their last 19 runs would be on the home run. That's 70%. 70% of their runs in this skid, we'll call it, where they lost 3 of 5, were on the home run. The thing that doesn't concern me is that during that time, you also saw Luzardo, Wheeler, Skubal. No, you didn't see Skubal in that one. Flaherty was the other one. So the 3 losses were against really good pitchers. So typically those aces, right? You're not going to string together 2, 3, 4 hits to get a crooked number. You're going to see solo home runs. You're going to see maybe some multi-run home runs. So it doesn't concern me as much. But in a short time span, it gives me like the 2018, 2019 Cubs vibes where
going to bring that up.
Yeah, like Javi and Schwarber and Rizzo, if they weren't hitting a home run, KB, they weren't hitting a home run and the Cubs weren't scoring. It's a very small sample size. I just want to point that out because it's fun when they hit 5 home runs. It's fun when they hit 4 home runs. But then when you followed up with back-to-back days of no home runs, and that means also hardly any runs scored, if any, you start to just be like, all right, let's get back to what we're good at. By the way, we're going back home where Wrigley has not been all that friendly for home runs. We've got to be able to be better at scoring runs, stringing hits together, or at the very least, just going back to our really good base running days. It feels like we've kind of gotten away from that in the last couple of weeks. I don't want to tell you that Justin Steele jinxed it, but it feels like Justin Steele jinxed it. If he's watching, I'm just giving a hard time because like he said that and then it was suddenly like, oh, now we're getting thrown out of third base. Now we're getting caught stealing. And so I just want to see them get back to what has made them the top run producing team in baseball.
And I'm so glad you mentioned now that they're going back to Wrigley, and we're going to talk about that series in a little bit. And I know the weather is heating up in the Midwest, but it didn't matter last year. Wrigley is a hard place to hit a long ball. And if you rely too much on it, that was, as you said, 2018, 2019, hey, our offense is broken. We all know that quote. That like rings throughout the halls at Wrigley. I swear. That and breaking even and all the other cliches. But I'm glad that you're pointing this out because, yeah, I'm not, as you said, home runs, good. Don't want to ever say don't hit homers. But you're going to play at a place where homers have been kind of hard to come by.
Yeah.
Against really good pitching, by the way. And again, we're going to get to that in a second. But like Friday, you got Skeens. Good luck trying to hit a long ball. You're going to have to do some of the small ball stuff. You're going to have to go the opposite way. And it doesn't help when you're guys that specialize in that. I'm looking at you, Nico Horner, and hopefully he was really bad on this road trip. He came through a couple times, but his overall numbers, not great. But you're going to need a guy like that, especially facing this team this weekend in your barn, as the hockey community says. You're just going to need your guys to make contact and not try and put one over the fence. So, I want to end on a positive, just very quick.
Let's do it.
Kyle.
Alex.
Do you believe in the Cubs bullpen?
Oh,
Do you believe?
sure. Oh, for sure.
Since May 14th, the bullpen has pitched 87 and 2/3 inning. They've only given up 8 runs. So for you math nerds out there, that is a 0.82 ERA since May 14th. And all I have to say is, wow. Our biggest concern is now the strength of our team. Crazy.
If I ever get Tyler Zombro back on the show, my first question is going to be, how do you start this April 1st? Like,
No kidding.
how do we just bypass the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season so that we can just get to the good stuff? Because it's just like what they talk about. If you have a guy who starts the season on fire and then he goes on an 0 for 20, it gets hidden really, really well. But if he starts out 0 for 20 and then he goes on a heater, you're like, oh, he's bouncing back, right? Like, and that's kind of how I feel about this bullpen. And I do still wonder, just like the Cardinals and their good run, I wonder how real that is. I do wonder how real this bullpen run is because, again, a lot of it happened during that 21 game stretch against bad teams. So you have to put a little asterisk next to it. But I mean, what did Bleacher Nation call them? Driss Pama-Exon or just Pamixon? Drew Pomeranz and Chris Flexen combined, man. I mean, at some point too, I just want to know, are they going to give Chris Flexen some starting time? Because Colin Ray is starting to get to that point where I'm like, all right, do we see him more as the swing man, whereas Chris Flexen might be an option for the starting rotation. So, and or the Ben Brown thing as well. So I am encouraged. I think the biggest thing, despite the Monday game with Daniel Palencia, is that we have a guy that looks like he could be a bona fide closer, like Daniel Palencia, and good for him for not being his typical meltdown self on Monday. And I think that's the biggest strides that he's taken, is that when he starts to get nervous now, he just still attacks the zone. And I'd much rather see that than the ball going all over the place at 102, 103 miles an hour. So I am extremely excited. When Ryan Presley is now on a 15 inning or 15 appearance or 13 appearance, whatever it is, scoreless streak, you know something is going well. And let's just enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
And I'm so glad you said, well, really, you started your explanation with, well, sometimes, bad first impressions, whatever. Ryan Presley had a bad first impression. Then it was a little better. We're like, oh, okay. And then the San Francisco debacle, where he was horrendous. And ever since then, he's not given up a run.
It's crazy.
So, look, I know first impressions mean a lot, and especially doing that particular job on the baseball diamond, it's real easy to be like, this guy sucks. When in reality, outside of 2-3 appearances, the dude has been awesome. Yeah. Lights out even today, as Kyle pointed out earlier, he's throwing 95, getting a lot more swing and miss. He looks totally different than he did even 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to give him a shout out really quick, because I know just on social media, and his family has been a little combative on social media because Cub fans are going after his family, which, by the way, don't do that. That's such BS. Anyway, not the point. The point being, he has been really good. And I think Cubs fans need to realize, oh, this guy is an asset. It's not, oh, here comes Presley. If he comes in right now in the 7th or 8th inning, I feel right. There's not a whole lot of guys in this bullpen right now where I'm like, oh, Jesus. All right, here we go. Buckle up. I mean, maybe Cabrera. Maybe he gave up a home run today.
I don't even think him. I don't think there's a single guy in this bullpen right now that I'm like, oh gosh, we just got to throw up the prayers. Every single guy in the bullpen and every single guy in the lineup on a regular day lineup, not on this Wednesday day lineup, they can do damage. And that's an exciting place to be. Now let's get our starters to that. You heard Jed talk about the other day that starting pitching is their number one priority. Yep. Cool. Let's get there. And now we've got ourselves a World Series contending team.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy, the turnaround that they've had. And speaking of starting pitchers, we do have some updates we're going to get to in a second. I do want to just point out, as of recording, which is 4:21 Central Time, the Cardinals and Brewers have both lost. So, fun fact, even though the Cubs had an under 500 road trip, they did not lose a single game in the standings.
Great.
I mean, you talk about great luck. That is awesome news.
The Cardinals got swept by the Blue Jays at home, right? Because that's loss number 4 in a row. That is, yeah, that's clutch. Thank you, Toronto. Thank you, Canada.
It's so crazy because that Blue Jays team is an enigma. As someone who, puts a few shekels here and there, I can never get Toronto right. So thank you, Toronto. But all right, so we got some injury updates to get to before we talk about the upcoming series against Pittsburgh. Porter Hodge, very short report, but good news nonetheless. Threw another 30-pitch bullpen, and no setbacks were reported. Seems to be doing just fine. And Shota Imanaga, through his first rehab outing in Arizona, went 2 hits and then had some bullpen work afterward. Or I'm sorry, 2 innings pitched. I think I said 2 hits. And did some bullpen work after the fact. Faced 7 batters, struck out 4 of them, and only allowed 1 hit. So, where do we go from here? Depends on what you read. Bleacher Nation laid out a couple different options. I heard Shahad Sharma talk about maybe a couple Arizona starts, and then he's just right back in the big league rotation. I would imagine he gets a start in Iowa. I don't know that for a fact. But again, it depends on who you read. So the timeline is still a little blurry, but overall, 2 innings, did really well. I believe he's throwing another 2 or 3 innings at the end of the week. So we will keep an eye out for that. But overall, good news on Shota Imanaga.
Really quick, what do you make of, and by the way, in asking this question, I needed to correct myself as well, because earlier when we were talking about the bullpen game where Palencia wasn't taken out, I forgot that Ryan Brazier was also an option. So you could argue that Ryan Brazier might have been an option there. So anyway, backing up on that, when Porter Hodge comes back, do you actually use his options and send him to AAA? Or because like at this point, when you look at the active roster, it's Brazier, Cabrera, Flexen, Keller, Palencia, Pomeranz, Presley, Thielbar. The only guy there with options is Daniel Palencia. You're not sending him down.
Yeah,
so it's probably Cabrera getting DFA'd, because that's a lot of lefties in a bullpen. So that's what I think the move probably would be.
Yeah, I mean, you read all off those names, and in my head I'm going, I wouldn't touch that. I'd keep him. I'd keep him. But when's the last time we've had bullpen problems like that, where it's like, he's been pretty good. You want to keep him? You want to keep him. And now our arguably best reliever before he got hurt, it's like, well, we got to make room for him. So maybe they do a Tyson Miller thing, not cut, but maybe they're like, hey, Porter Hodge, just take your time.
Sure. Yeah, I could see it. And if he struggles at all, you keep him down there for a little bit till he figures it out, and then let whoever is the odd man out kind of wean themselves out. But if they do have to make that decision, it feels like Cabrera gets DFA'd. We don't have to spend much time on it. I just wanted to ask you that question.
No, it's an interesting question. I mean, again, all good news. And yeah. I saw some feedback on YouTube that Ty and I were a little too negative on Sunday. So that's all right. We'll sunshine pump today. Even though they lost, we'll sunshine pump. All right.
Yeah, make everyone happy.
It is what it is. I probably was a little too negative, but gosh darn it, I want my team to beat the good teams. To be the best, you got to beat the best. And coming to town this week is not the best. They are at the bottom of the division. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates coming to Wrigley Field this weekend. Starting tomorrow, it'll be Andrew Heaney in Game 1 facing Jameson Taillon. Heaney on the season, 3-4 with a 3.24 ERA. Career against the Cubs, not great. 0-2 with a 6.75 ERA and only 10 innings pitched. He'll be opposite Jameson Taillon going for the Cubs, 6-3 with a 3.54 ERA, and he's been really good as of late. Career against Pittsburgh, 2-2, a 4.55 ERA in 29 2/3 innings pitched. That is tomorrow night. That is Thursday. Friday, things get interesting. It is Paul Skeens, because of course it's not a Cubs Pirates series without a Paul Skeens sighting, versus Cade Horton. So Skeens coming in at a 4-6 record, but a 1.88 sparkling ERA. Career against the Cubs, and Lord knows he's got enough innings logged. 25 innings logged. He's 2-1 with a 2.88 ERA. Funny enough, I thought he'd face the Cubs most in his career. I was wrong. It's actually the Cardinals.
Yep, Cardinals.
I was a little surprised by that, but I think we had that conversation last time. We faced
They
the
give you some
Pirates.
memory pills.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, I need those. Cade Horton on the season 3-1 with a 4.11 ERA, and this is his first appearance against the Pirates. 1:20 Friday. Wrigley should be electric for that one. Game 3 Saturday. Mike Burrows, don't know who that is, versus Matthew Boyd. Burrows 1-1 with a 5 flat ERA. He's never faced the Cubs before. He's only got 21 1/3 innings pitched in his career. Matthew Boyd, Cubs ace and savior of this season, 5-3 with a 2.89 ERA. Career against Pittsburgh, not the best. He's 0-3 with a 6.53 ERA in 30 1/3 innings pitched. And finally, I will shut up after I get through game 4. Mitch Keller versus Colin Ray. Keller on the season 1-9, a 4.15 ERA. Against the Cubs, not much better. 5-5, a 4.91 ERA in 62 1/3 innings pitched. He'll be opposite Colin Ray, who is 4-2 with a 3.92 ERA on the season in 8 appearances against the Pirates, both starting and relieving. 6 starts, 2 relief appearances. 3-3 with a 5.91 ERA in 35 innings pitched. So a very loaded weekend, a 4-gamer against a division rival. Kind of need this series. I feel good about 2 of these games for sure. I'd be okay with a split. I want 3. Gosh darn it, I want 4.
I want 4. And I don't usually make bold predictions unless I have something to back it up. And right now I feel like I have enough to back it up. The Phillies, they had won. Yeah. Excellent. So the Phillies, they had won like 2 of 11.
Yes.
So they were due for a win streak. The Pirates now have won 7 of 11, if you count their win against the Miami Marlins today. That included a sweep against the Phillies too, by the way. So I believe they are due on the other end. I believe that they are not going to come into Wrigley. They are not going to perform well. And if you look at 4 of their last 7 wins, which spans over the last 11 games, only 4 of those games did they score 5 runs or more. They scored 5 runs 3 times. They scored 1 game, 10 runs. So this team is not exactly blowing the cover off the ball. They were relying a lot on pitching. And I'm sorry, the Cubs have the best lineup in baseball right now. It's not a debate. It is based on runs scored. They are the number 1 team in runs scored. Wrigley hasn't been all that favorable, sure. But because of these factors, because the Pirates aren't scoring, and if Wrigley doesn't play favorable, advantage Cubs. And because they have been winning, I think they're due for a loss or 2 or 3 or 4. So I'm like 75% confident that the Cubs win 3 out of 4. And I'm up there. I'm like 40% confident they could sweep this series.
Well, damn. Okay.
Hot damn indeed. That's where I stand right now. I feel really good about this one.
I feel good about tomorrow. Friday against Skeens, who knows? I don't feel great, but okay, fine, whatever. Burrows, young pitcher, okay. And then Keller, who's not been the Mitch Keller of old. I like that. And I just quick looked up the weather for this weekend. So it looks like Friday night there's some showers, but it looks like it's going to be low 70s. I see 73 Thursday, Friday, and 70 Saturday, Sunday. So winds, I'm guessing, not going to be blowing out if it's that temperature. So they're, again, as we said earlier in the show, they got to find a way to just scrape runs across because the home run ball might not be there. And
I'm going to put myself out. I've already put myself out there. I basically ran into this show naked by telling you guys this. So I'm going to make sure that once this series is over, if they win 3 or 4, you're going to see the recap of me talking about this with a the Cubs World Series parade and me talking on stage. There's going to be something like that. And then on the other side, if that doesn't happen, if they only win 2, hell, if they only win 1, it's just miserable. You'll see me with a dunce cap on a reel. So I'm holding my feet to the fire on this. I'm not just saying stuff. I really do feel good about this one.
I definitely feel good about 2, 3. A sweep though? Oh, that means Friday. But that's going to be a fun game. Cade versus Skeens. 120 Wrigley Field, Friday afternoon. Let's go. I've never been more happy to have a day off in my life. But, oh my gosh.
You deserve it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. Anything else? Any other expectations for this series? I mean, you kind of laid it all out there. I don't know if you got anything else to say.
No, go Cubs go. And if you're not already subscribed, not liking, please do.
You just beat me to it. So, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that comment section. I saw some lively debates in there over the last couple videos. So, make sure to join the Setup Man community. Hit the comment button. Join the comments. I think I said that wrong. Hit the like button is what I meant to say. Hit the subscribe button. It's been a long day, folks. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, maybe unsubscribe, then resubscribe, and then on Spotify as well. And wherever you get your audio podcast. Kyle, we probably have a little promoting to do for next Wednesday, don't we?
What is next Wednesday?
Cubs Brewers watch along live Facebook.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's right. Yes,
I was throwing you the keys and you looked at me like, wait, what?
I got to put it on my calendar. You should tell Brian that. I think Brian forgot we're doing that too.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I'll promote then. So if you're not already, make sure you join. And I have the picture here.
I was gonna say,
Cubs,
there it is.
Yeah. Cubs Talk on Facebook, hosted by us. Next week, we normally once a month do like a special edition, or we're trying to, where all the Setup Man Network gets in and have fun. I think last time we opened up the show talking about horror movies. Like, it's just more of a hangout. We're not super deep in Cubs, but a little bit of a twist on it. Next Wednesday, we're doing a watch along. Cubs Brewers, Wednesday night. I believe that game is, I have my pocket schedule here. Yes, 7:05. We'll watch the first hour with you. And who knows, if we're having fun, maybe we'll go a little longer. But that is next Wednesday. Facebook. Mark your calendars, because that's going to be a lot of fun, especially for a big game. Unfortunately, because I live in Wisconsin, I have to listen to the Brewers announcers. So pray for me on that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But make sure on your way out the door, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening audio only, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. But for Kyle, I'm Alex. Hopefully we get that sweep this weekend. So we'll be back Sunday night, Ty and I, hopefully talking about a series victory or maybe even the sweep. But we will see you on Sunday. Thank you for joining. Kyle and I are going to go ice up.